All right, deep divers, buckle up. We've got E. coli at McDonald's, a record fine for American Airlines, and a legal battle between ARM and Qualcomm that could shake up big tech.
And we can't forget Coca-Cola predicting a sales surge while Boeing's facing a potential strike.
It's a lot to unpack, so let's jump right in with a quick market snapshot. U.S. futures are down, Europe's shaky, and Asia's giving us mixed signals.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of hesitation in the air, wouldn't you say?
For sure. The dollar's climbing against the yen and the euro, gold soaring, and oil, well, it's dipping.
It's like everyone's waiting to see what happens next, especially with that U.S. election looming.
Speaking of uncertainty, let's move on to earnings reports. AT&T's adding subscribers, but their revenue's falling short. Are those pricey unlimited plans backfiring?
It's a tricky balance. They need to attract customers, but also make sure those plans are actually profitable.
Then there's Baker Hughes. Profits up thanks to international demand for drilling tech, but North America and the Middle East are lagging.
Shows you how uneven this global recovery really is.
Now, Boston Scientific, they're riding high, raised their profit forecast on booming heart device sales.
It's great for them, but it does make you think about the bigger picture of healthcare costs.
Okay, how about a classic America brand? Coca-Cola's predicting a sales surge? The US, India, South Korea are doing great, but they're facing headwinds in China and the Middle East.
Adapting to those global changes is key for a company like Coke.
Meanwhile, CoStar Group's feeling the pinch of inflation. They trimmed their revenue forecast. Nobody wants to buy property with those interest rates.
It's classic economics. Rising rates make people cautious about big purchases.
And it's not just traditional businesses feeling it. Enphase Energy, the solar inverter maker, saw their shares take a hit after projecting weaker revenue. Soft demand in Europe, they say.
Even industries with a bright future, like renewable energy, can't escape those short-term economic bumps.
Now Hilton, synonymous with travel and luxury, had to lower their growth forecast too. Declines in China and a slowdown in the U.S. travel boom, because even vacations aren't recession-proof.
Seems like that post-pandemic travel surge is fading. People are tightening their belts.
Speaking of tightening belts, Starbucks is hitting the reset button. New CEO Brian Niccol is dealing with the fact that those fancy, expensive drinks aren't selling like they used to.
They need to find that sweet spot between offering value and maintaining that premium Starbucks brand.
Lastly, Texas Instruments. They beat profit estimates thanks partly to a rebound in analog chip orders and a recovering Chinese auto market. But they're predicting a weaker fourth quarter due to, that persistent weakness in the industrial market.
It's the cyclical nature of tech, right? Sometimes it's booming, sometimes it cools down.
Okay, so we've got our market overview and the earnings roller coaster. Ready for the juicy stuff?
I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
Let's start with Apple's delicate dance with China. Tim Cook's meeting with China's industry minister in Beijing definitely raised some eyebrows.
It's a complex relationship, right? China's vital for Apple's manufacturing and sales, but there's that geopolitical tension and those data security concerns.
And from one tightrope walk to another, American Airlines just got slapped with a record $50 million fine for their treatment of disabled passengers.
It sets a huge precedent for the whole industry. Corporate responsibility isn't just about profits, it's about treating every customer with respect.
Buckle up for this next one. ARM and Qualcomm are locked in a legal battle that could ripple through the tech world. ARM's canceling a crucial licensing agreement, which could mess with Qualcomm's chip designs and impact companies like Microsoft.
This is high-stakes poker, and the stakes are massive. The outcome could reshape the chip design landscape.
Meanwhile, over at Boeing, a crucial union vote could end a costly strike that's been crippling their production.
It's a turning point for Boeing. A win means they can stabilize production and address their financial woes, but if the strike drags on, trouble.
Now, some drama in the pharmaceutical world. Roche's CEO is publicly against Novo Nordisk's controlling shareholder possibly taking over Catalent. It's a battle for control of the obesity drug market.
It's a great illustration of the fierce competition in pharma, especially when there's potential for big profits. Raises questions about consolidation and its impact on innovation and prices.
And while we're on healthcare, Centene's suing U.S. regulators over downgraded Medicare plan ratings, alleging unfair scoring practices.
Classic tension between healthcare providers and the government, right? Providers often argue that the ratings don't tell the whole story.
Here's one that'll grab your attention. Eli Lilly just got their Alzheimer's treatment approved in the UK. but the NHS is questioning its cost-effectiveness.
It's a common dilemma with breakthrough drugs. Balancing the need for life-changing treatments with limited healthcare budgets is a challenge everywhere.
Back to the skies. Frontier and Spirit Airlines are reportedly back at the merger table. If they join forces, it could reshape the budget airline landscape.
Mergers are always interesting. They can lead to greater efficiency and lower fares, but also less competition and potentially higher prices down the line.
And then there's JP Chase. They're reportedly diving back into physical LNG trading after a decade-long break.
Sounds like they see an opportunity in the volatile LNG market. It'll be interesting to watch how this plays out.
All right, a story that might make you think twice about your next fast food run. McDonald's is dealing with an E. coli outbreak linked to their quarter pounders. 1 fatality and dozens sick. Investigations are underway.
A stark reminder that food safety is crucial. Something like this can seriously damage a brand's reputation.
Next, a story about free speech and censorship online. Meta's oversight board just overturned Meta's decision to remove a politically charged Facebook post, sparked a debate about satire and the limits of online discourse.
This highlights the tough challenge social media giants face when moderating content. Trying to balance protecting users with upholding free speech is a constant struggle.
Moving on to a more collaborative story, NVIDIA, the chip-making giant, overcame a design flaw in their latest AI chips thanks to help from TSMC.
Shows how interdependent chip designers and manufacturers are. Sometimes it takes teamwork to solve those complex problems.
Some good news on the health front. Pfizer's got FDA approval for their RSV vaccine for adults aged 18 to 59 at increased risk.
This could be big, especially for those who are more vulnerable to RSV complications. It's another step toward protecting people from respiratory illnesses.
And finally, a story about geopolitics and semiconductors. TSMC, a major player in chip making, is caught in the US-China tech battle after one of their chips was found in a Huawei product. Possible export control violations, they say.
TSMC's in a tough spot. Their every move is scrutinized by both the US and China. This just goes to show how intertwined tech and geopolitics have become.
Okay, we've covered a lot here, from market jitters to earning surprises to legal battles and health breakthroughs. Quite a journey, right?
It's amazing how much can happen in just one day in the world of business and tech.
Absolutely. So, are you ready to take all this and figure out what it means for us?
Hit me with it. I'm ready to dive deeper.
So we've seen the big picture, but how does all this news actually affect you?
Yeah, it's easy to think these things are happening somewhere else and don't really matter to us. But the truth is, they can impact your wallet, your job, even your future.
So it's not just about investors on Wall Street.
No, not at all. Take those rising interest rates, for example. They could make it more expensive to buy a house or a car, or even just finance your holiday shopping.
And what about those supply chain problems everyone keeps talking about?
Well, that could mean higher prices for everything and waiting longer to get the things you need.
So it's like everything's connected and one problem leads to another.
Exactly. And those union negotiations at Boeing, if that strike continues, it could affect everything from airline ticket prices to jobs in industries that depend on Boeing.
So this web of interconnectedness has real-world consequences.
Right, and that's why it's so important to understand these trends. It helps you make better decisions about your money, your career, even your lifestyle.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do we even keep up with it all? It's so overwhelming.
You have to be a critical thinker. Don't just accept every headline you see. Ask questions, think about different viewpoints, and most importantly, connect the dots.
So don't just passively read the news. Actually engage with it.
That's it. The more you engage, the better decisions you can make for yourself and your family.
Now, let's go back to some of those companies that really got us thinking. I'm curious about Starbucks and this back to Starbucks plan. Will simplifying the menu and tweaking prices be enough?
I think it's a step in the right direction. They need to win back those customers who maybe felt overwhelmed by all the fancy drinks.
But maybe it's more than that. It feels like Starbucks has lost its soul a little bit, you know?
I hear that. They need to focus on creating that welcoming atmosphere again, that third place feeling.
And let's not forget the people who create that atmosphere, the employees. Working conditions and wages in the service industry are a big concern these days.
For sure. You can't have happy customers without happy employees. Starbucks needs to make sure they're treating their workers fairly.
It sounds like Starbucks has its work cut out for it. But they've built an empire, haven't they?
They have, and they have a lot of loyal customers. If they can reconnect with their core values, they've got a good chance of a comeback.
Okay, what about Boeing and that union vote? It feels bigger than just one company.
Right, Boeing's a major player in the aerospace industry. If that strike continues, It could have ripple effects throughout the whole sector.
And it's important to remember the human cost, too. All those workers and their families are directly affected by what happens.
Exactly. Behind every headline, there are real people whose lives are at stake.
Speaking of innovation, what about Tesla's move into the Japanese home battery market? They're not just a car company anymore, they're an energy company.
It's fascinating to watch how they're evolving. Their home batteries are becoming popular as people want to be more energy independent.
And Japan seems like the perfect market for that kind of technology.
Absolutely, with their high energy costs and concerns about energy security.
And it's more than just selling batteries, it's about creating a whole new energy ecosystem.
It's a bold vision, moving away from fossil fuels towards a cleaner, more sustainable future.
Now back to Meta and that oversight board decision on the Facebook post. What a debate about censorship and free speech.
It's a tough one. Social media companies need to protect users from harmful content, but they also have to uphold free speech.
It's almost impossible to draw that line perfectly.
It is. In this case, the oversight board said the post was satire and didn't violate the rules, but it raises questions about who gets to decide what's acceptable online.
Okay, let's talk about something we can all relate to: food. That E. coli outbreak at McDonald's is a scary reminder about food safety.
It really is. We trust companies to handle our food properly, and when that trust is broken, it can be devastating.
So it's a lesson for the whole food industry about the importance of safety protocols.
And as consumers, we have to be aware and take precautions too.
On a brighter note, Pfizer's new RSV vaccine for adults is a potential game changer.
For sure, RSV can be very dangerous, especially for older folks and people with weaker immune systems.
So this could save lives and help protect everyone in the community.
Absolutely. Vaccines are a powerful tool for public health.
Okay, we've covered a lot today, and I think it's time to start wrapping things up. But I want to bring it back to that idea of interconnectedness.
It's definitely a theme that runs through all these stories.
Right. We see how events in one place can affect people all over the world, and how industries that seem separate are actually linked together.
And ultimately, how our individual choices contribute to the larger system.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's also pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. So what's next? Where are we headed, and what should we be watching for?
Well, if today's news is anything to go by, the future is all about change, isn't it? And learning to deal with uncertainty. Think about it. We've got AI, clean energy, data privacy, all these huge trends that are going to keep shaking things up.
Yeah, it feels like we're at a turning point. The decisions we make now will shape what happens next.
And it's not just about governments or big companies making those decisions. It's about us too, you know? Each of us making choices about how we want to live and work in this changing world.
So it's not enough to just stay informed. We have to actually do something with that information.
Absolutely. And it all starts with being curious. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and don't be afraid to challenge the way things are. That's how we solve problems and make progress.
Well said. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive for today. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
All right, I'm listening.
Remember those long-term implications we talked about? How will all these trends we've been discussing, and the ones we haven't even seen yet, how will they change industries? How will they change how we live? How will they change the world?
Yeah, good question. What new challenges will we face? What new opportunities will come up?
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about, right? Because the future is being written right now, and we're all a part of it.
Couldn't agree more. It's an exciting time to be alive, even with all the uncertainty. And if we stay open-minded, keep learning, and embrace change, I think we can create a pretty amazing future.
I like that. A pretty amazing future. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of business and tech. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.